Hi guys, Haunted Picnic here, and I thought, let's have another crack at making a tabletop RPG character. So, let's make a VERMIS character. I've recently been reading VERMIS 1, finally, done a few passes, got a couple videos up. If you don't know, VERMIS is a dark fantasy game lore book by Plastiboo about a fake game that doesn't exist, but it talks about the world, characters, and things you can do in it. Having read the second book as well, Mr. Mirrors, I expected quite a few differences, and there were. But having read both now, it feels like it would be really cool and fun to, try and make a character. What elements would be best suited for a character to play in a tabletop? Off the top of my head, some really good ones that I feel like are very VERMIS appropriate are, D&D, Pathfinder, your classics like that. Also Morkborg. I think Morkborg fits in there quite nice. Also, someone in the HP Discord has actually been working on some stuff too, and I've seen a bit of that. Super cool. They've done really cool stuff. You can be the characters from the book. Very, very cool. But for what I'm doing here, much more of a casual thing, but it's also the idea of how do we individually make our own personalized VERMIS style character. So first things first, let's distill what the key aspects are that make up a kind of VERMIS Suffercore style thing. What I mean are the elements that really define it and would help GMs, DMs, and players, most importantly, feel like they are a VERMIS character. So, some of them that I've got listed out are tragic backstory or malicious backstory. No one's having a good backstory, but the goodness can come from experiencing it, fleshing it out as you go. But it's going to start either horribly or you yourself perhaps are horrible. Of course, run the risk of the dreaded murder hobo backstory, but if there's a party of people that are like that or partially have that, then that might actually help to quell that depending on the person behind the screen. So first key aspect, tragic backstory or malicious backstory. Second key aspect, an alignment, trauma, or cursed item, most likely tied to previous backstory. Now, alignments are definitely sort of one that I feel like 90% of people kind of throw to the wayside, primarily speaking, of course, in D&D, which I 100% understand, because alignments they do have functional elements I'm aware of, but in terms of like role play, it does feel a bit like a type of kind of, I don't know, arbitrary moral, railroad. This is the moral railroad, is the alignment. I think someone's alignment is defined by their actions, and we haven't seen any actions yet, so it's very strange to kind of arrive and be, I'm evil. You can, as a player, kind of get that across if you want to. That being said, however, alignments are also in VERMIS. So, I think maybe that could be more reflected visually. Not so much in terms of stereotypically like looking evil, because I feel like most people in VERMIS kind of look a bit dubious at the best of times. But I more mean the balance between flesh and skeleton. Now, for those of you who maybe aren't familiar with VERMIS at all, that will be a huge kind of bit of a curveball there. But in VERMIS, it tends to align skeleton and undead people with evil, and people with flesh, more traditionally armored knights, good. Obviously, this isn't always the case, but that's sort of how it goes. So I like the idea that you're visually depicting your alignment depending on your actions. Trauma or a cursed item, these two things as well, alignment, trauma, or cursed item. I recommend that you have all three if you want. You can have two, you can have one. As long as you've got one, I think that's the important thing. I would probably say if you had to just have one, choose a cursed item. I think that's the easiest entry point for one of these factors to kind of help establish players and their characters and make them feel comfortable in that sort of Vermis story or setting, sorry. So third thing, a unique armor element or visual design factor that sets them apart from other people. So this can come with alignment as well, but primarily the unique armor is sort of, your classic Dark Souls From Software stuff, but it's also something to denote either where they're from, their origins, or the methods in which they would most likely orchestrate themselves. So, for instance, someone with huge gauntlets, but then very, thin other parts of the armor, you're going to expect a lot of punching or very heavy-handed actions. So things like that could be quite fun. These are also entirely up to the player, how you define them. But one distinct, even dare I would say exaggerated, like go for it, type of armor design or aspect will really help to make you feel at home in this Vermis character. Thinking of course, the Mad Pricker. What a lad. Guy's just like a series of spikes in this sort of pickle shape. What a guy. Great stuff. That's the kind of inspiration and design that I think of. So fourth aspect, a proficiency in a core fantasy skill or stat. So that's just a classic thing, like mace, sword, defense. This is more applicable to probably whatever system you're using, but just choosing one of those that gives you a buff, and then something that you're not very good at, which is also an important thing. Finally, a deity to follow, defy, or ignore completely. So there are at least known 6 deities to choose from in Vermis. Of course, you could make your own deities and just run that by your GM, see what they think. But there are 6 to choose from that I think would suit quite well. You can use this as flavor on the system that you have, or try and develop your entire whole thing around it. But I would say that the way that these gods are depicted in the literature, in the source material, are quite severe in what they're about. Like, I think it's Dorvis of Truth. Don't see him. That's a good one to choose from because you kind of got a lot of leeway, but he's just about truth. That's it. The god of white hives, Ketereth, he is vengeance, revenge. That's what he's about. He's plague incarnate. He's like if Nurgle wasn't chill. He's just he's pressed and he wants revenge however he can. So that being said, you can also defy a god. Maybe you've chosen one that you have very deliberately or inadvertently pissed off. And so that's an aspect. Or you're completely godless. But make that a part of the character. Not just that you've opted out, but that you chose to. So let's just try some... Let's just try some backstory stuff. So, sometimes I actually think, or at least for me, when coming up with a character, or maybe it's their backstory, I tend to start with just some inspirational material or that kind of thing. Visuals, searching on different websites or images of artists, not AI art, to inspire you? Like, what kind of character do you envision or think of if you are more visually inclined when you want to make a character, or that when you think of Vermis? What inspires you, and how can you adapt that? So for now, I'm going to think of that sort of unique armor element. So just look at some cool medieval designs, that sort of thing. For me, I really like the Draugr look. This kind of like undead, but more like resummoned, kind of like a what is a Draugr exactly? A corporeal undead creature from Nordic folktale. Cool. Corporeal undead. That is interesting. Because that's sort of suggesting that it's like that there are, of course, incorporeal. So this is one of the corporeals, a physical undead. Anyway, I like how the Draugrs look. They're pretty sweet. Not quite a skeleton, not quite undead. Bit meaty. And that also adds to the sort of curse trait ailment area. So I'm going to use a half undead guy. So my inspiration will be this one, which is pretty great. I dig that. Now, we can think, why is he half undead? And this would be probably our curse aspect. But this wouldn't be very Vermis if the curse was just sort of there. Let's have a curse that is cruel and punishing in a way so, that interacts with our backstory, which maybe this helps build. So this curse comes from an item. Let's say that they are partially undead because of a cursed item that they have. An item that lets you live forever based on a bargain. So maybe not immortality, however. Maybe our character got this item from a really weird merchant. It's good to give yourself and your DM potential NPC as well as part of your backstory. That's another thing that can come from cursed items too. Where did you find it? Either a location or NPC or event can really help to sort of tie together your backstory, but also give some delicious morsels for your DMGM to use. So, cursed item has made him partially undead. Mysterious merchant sells a cursed item, which grants a wish. Classic, super powerful, very monkey paw coded stuff. So let's say our character wishes to see their family again, having been sent away for a war in a distant land. So distant that it would take them many years to return. Maybe our character was already dying, and upon buying this necklace or ring, made a deal. I wish to live until I can embrace my family once again. Done. Bargain made. Necklace permanently on until the requirements are met. As you may have guessed, this is a tragic backstory. So, for years, our character traveled to reach their family, body withering but never dying. Eventually, now a hollow husk Draugr of a person, they reach their family only to strike fear into their family's hearts, unrecognizable in their necrotic state. Pushed away, kicked out, unable to embrace their family. Their family then moves or eventually dies before they can reach them, meaning they can never fully die. Now our character seeks the unknown location of his family's graves, or at least the foul merchant that sold him the wretched cursed necklace. So yeah, that's our sort of our backstory. This is, never dies, more as in the immortality of prolonged life, not the immortality of never dying. So it's more aging. I think, this is a character that, if left alone in a field, they would never die. If having their head chopped off, die. That kind of thing, Keep it fair. It's got to be a cursed item, but, it's got to have that catch-22 element. So, speaking of elements, our unique element is the necklace. So this is something that could be a part of our character, something that they show off, or something that is a part that they're embarrassed about, or a great deal of shame, so it's always hidden. Maybe this is a reveal for the PC to other PCs. Yeah. Okay, so next, let's think about stats, because we've kind of cobbled together all these elements a bit that I mentioned. Let's go with stats. So we're undead. I like the idea that we aren't magical. That is entirely up to you, of course. And honestly, maybe I kind of like the idea that we're also undead, but not strong. But we have an unsightly amount of stamina. So we don't tire like other people. We're not super fast like those sprinting zombies. We don't shamble like extremely slow zombies, but we just walk. This is like a Jason kind of element, we aren't the fastest thing, but heading in one direction, we will eventually get there. So thinking of those elements, what that be? It might be an increase in certain stats, some modifiers, or a permanent reduction in movement speed, but that you can move. That, like a dash action. It's a tough one, actually. I'll leave that one over to you guys. Actually, that is tough. How do you show stamina in terms of... I guess it's like trying to differentiate it between Constitution. Constitution would probably be pretty high, too. Maybe it's more about the tenaciousness, the endurance of our stamina, so that we can keep trying again, despite things. Maybe there is also just no exhaustion, unaffected by a lot of weather elements. That might be a good way to differentiate that, or that certain movement reducing conditions don't affect us. Or that it just takes longer for us to do things, but their difficulty is lower. So, moving on from that, if you guys think of a good way to represent undead stamina, put it in the comments below. That would be awesome. Finally, deity. So, we have 6 to choose from in Vermis, and for us, if we are choosing a deity, I think it's an obvious choice to do Murgo. So Murgo is the god of sort of the unrelenting. They represent plant life, growth, but also regeneration, perseverance through pain and agony. That death is not the end; it continues. Murgo is also like Papa Nurgle, but I think a bit more on Papa Nurgle's side. I think he's probably a bit more of it. He's the good boy with Nurgs. So I think Murgo would be a good choice. The thing is, our character doesn't know that they're actually aligned with Murgo, because the cursed item that they have is a Murgo relic, which binds them to him, but he doesn't know that, and also doesn't care for forests or nature or that sort of thing. So all his actions go against the deity that he's bound to, but for all intents and purposes, the way that he is best represents Murgo themselves. So you can have this sort of fun dynamic where that's maybe why he's cursed as well. And creates an interesting dynamic for interactions with other followers of Murgo with this character, because it could go a few different ways. Positively or negatively, they learn more, they learn less, and also it gives an opportunity for the other PCs to learn about Murgo with this one. But there's our Vermis character. So we have our Draugr, half-Draugr, undead person who's cursed by an item they found from a strange merchant that was granted as a wish, using the power of Murgo without their knowledge, to to ensure that they live until they embrace their family again. This family pushes them away. Time passes, they die, and our character, unable to find their graves, now seeks endlessly to do so, to finally finish their own life, or seek revenge on the strange merchant. And yeah, so I'm not sure what our character's name would kind of be. I also like the idea that this necklace is huge. Like, it's not a fun necklace. It's not a fancy necklace. It is a stonking great, like, hubcap. So, you know, it makes sense that it's also a burden to bear. But it gives you eternal life. So I think that's a fun element too, because then it would make it harder to actually hide that. And you could use it as a weapon. I don't know. But yeah, that's just a quick, fun little example. I just wanted to do another one of these videos because, you know, I enjoyed the last one with God Husk. And even though this one's a bit more simple, it's a bit more, you know, easy digestible with D&D and other systems. I think it's a fun kind of exploration to see what mechanical elements can really feed into a character feeling like it's a part of the source material that it's inspired by. So yeah, go out there, make your VERMIS characters. There's heaps of artists who are already drawing these really awesome things, particularly enemies, which is really sweet. If you go onto the VERMIS subreddit, there's some really cool stuff out there. Anyway, you know, think of a name for your character. If you create a character, draw a character, whatever, please, you know, hit me up. I'm on Blue Sky, also on Reddit, post it there, or in the Discord, which you can find on the main YouTube page or at my Patreon. You can join for free or donate. But, you know, hey, whatever you want. You do you, and I'll do me. And until next time, I've been Haunted Picnic, and I'll see you all, well,